All right, so let's get started. Episode 18.
Episode 18.
18.
And guess what? Vance is back.
Vance is
back,
back.
baby.
Welcome
Man,
back.
it
Little
felt
hiatus.
wrong. It felt wrong
Yeah.
for me to listen to that pod and I wasn't on it.
Did it
Yeah, we-
really?
It felt wrong. Yeah.
We missed you. We definitely
Aaron
missed
did
you.
well,
guys.
though, I'll tell you.
great.
Yeah, he did.
CFO Aaron,
Shout
I
out to
like
Aaron
it.
for
Getting some
sitting in.
fans.
Yeah, oh yeah. Weirdly enough, this was our most listened to podcast.
Let's go.
Most listened to podcast.
Yeah, we had our single highest download day.
Come on.
Shout out to pray.com featuring Pastor Adam.
Is that what
Hey.
we're giving credit to? I thought we were going to give
Right,
credit
right,
to Aaron.
Aaron. Yeah.
Let's
sorry.
give credit to Aaron.
Yeah, credit
Yeah.
to Aaron. Credit
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
Aaron. It was
totally.
fantastic.
Yeah,
He was
like-
giving credit to himself.
Literally millions and millions of views, million of viewers just
Yeah.
listening.
Yeah.
We almost shut down
and-
Spotify, which is too much love for them.
Closed
crazy.
They're
down.
No.
It's crazy.
Well, Pastor Vance, you've been doing a lot since you've been gone. You want to just fill the audience in to what you've been doing?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about Christmas parties.
Yep.
We just had, I guess, Overflow Christmas party / Night of Generosity.
It was incredible.
Last week, my goodness.
Yes.
So I was, Kim was organizing all this. She's the VP of People. She's really my right hand at the company. And she put this together in like 6 weeks. She was sending me all these plans and proposals, and I was approving it. But I walked in, and my expectations were exceeded. And I think everybody felt that way. It was
So good.
unreal. So it was at an incredible restaurant, which, they don't have a Michelin star, but probably should.
They should definitely.
Oh, my
I mean,
goodness.
if they're not getting one soon, I'll just award them one.
What's the name of the place?
Beefsteaker.
Beefsteaker, shout out
Beefsteaker.
to our sponsors, Beefsteaker.
Well, it's not Beefsteak A, it's Beefsteaka.
I'm
It's
pretty sure it's
Beefsteaker.
Beefsteaker.
Oh,
yeah.
no, I've always seen it written out, so I've always been saying
Yeah.
Beefsteak A, so it's Beefsteaka. That makes
Right.
sense. Yeah, okay, cool.
Right. Yep. And
Beefsteaka.
right in the heart of the Silicon Valley.
Yep.
And it was a phenomenal culinary experience. Pastor Adam made some pasta.
I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right.
The chef let us come into the kitchen, get hands on with the meal.
Yeah.
And we made pasta, and we were able to take pasta home.
Wow.
I mean, it was so many things. I mean, there was so much that happened in the night.
It's incredible.
It was like action packed from start to finish. We grilled, we cooked, we had beautiful cocktails, champagne moments. The champagne moments were awesome, celebrating
Beautiful.
generosity and celebrating breakthrough moments. And they had, these champagne moments throughout the night where everyone cheersed, and it was great to, just give company report, company acceleration. We, my favorite part of the whole night was probably the caviar table.
Yeah.
When you go to somewhere and they have like a little caviar.
Yeah, right.
No, this was a table of caviar. Like I'm like, so this is like serve yourself?
It was wild.
I went to town. I mean, I skipped the carbs and went to the caviar.
No, it was wild. So, we, like Pastor Adam said, champagne moments. We are celebrating what happened in 2023.
Yes.
All the accomplishments, all the organizations that we help accelerate their missions, their visions, churches buying buildings all across the nation, people launching missions and things like that. So that was phenomenal. And
Yep.
that night, we gave away over $85,000.
That was
Wow.
the epic moment.
Yeah, so
Through
we
the Overflow Foundation.
through the launch. It was kind of our launch party of the Overflow Foundation, which is going to be, if Overflow's mission is to inspire the world to give, the mission of the foundation is to show them how to give.
Wow, okay.
And so how can we center the foundation to be an example of how to deploy capital to high impact communities? Hope Hanger was featured,
Yep.
right? We know and love them, the arm of Vive Church's outreach, but some other high impact communities that we would categorize got awarded on that night. We
Yep.
call it the Overflow Impact Award.
Yeah.
Step aside Forbes list. This is the list.
You want to be on this list.
You want
Yeah.
to be on this list. You want to be part of the Overflow Night of Generosity experience next year. Our vision is that it becomes synonymous with like how charity water galas have been.
Even better,
renowned.
I'm going to say this, Vance.
Come on.
There were a few people there from prominent tech companies at the event. And, these guys go to event after event after event.
Right.
And to hear them say that this was probably one of the greatest events they've been to.
Come on.
Was just testament to how epic the night was. It was, and I think it wasn't just because you're at a classy event.
Yeah.
It's the mission.
Yes.
And the mission was just really exciting. It's kind of like a vision gala that we have at Vive. Just
awesome.
the energy in the room and the excitement about bringing breakthrough. So that was fun.
I'll say this: I checked my mail, my invite.
It must have
got lost somewhere. But because I wasn't there, can you tell us what's the future looking like for Overflow? 'Cause I think you guys discussed a lot of stuff that's upcoming.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what you can reveal, but
Let's spill some tea. I like that. Yeah. So we celebrated the past. We gave away money in the present, and we really gave a preview to the future.
wow.
And
Wait,
so
was that planned? That was well said.
Well,
I thought you were teeing it up.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, right. That's what you wanted to say.
It's almost like you teed that up. So, Vance, tell us what's coming. And then you just rattle off. If you know Vance at all, that's
Yeah,
Vance.
that
That's
was
Vance to
really
a T.
well said.
He has a campaign slogan ready to go at all times. Just in the backlog, ready.
it's just there.
He goes through the file. All right, pull the past, present, future one. Go.
Exactly. And so it's like whenever I run for president one day, it's like you got the Vivek one-liners, you know what I mean?
Right.
Just like on point. So we really gave a preview, which I'm calling, and I'll spell the T on the hype pod because that's what we do. I'm calling the financial operating system.
That's what I thought. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh.
for the faith space.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the FOS.
Yeah, the FOS.
You know, here's the thing. Like what we revealed is that when you go to a high impact community, let's talk about the church because that's what we're a part of. Even more than giving, there's actually a lot of different transactions that you do, right? Every
Yeah.
single Sunday, Arun, I see you at the coffee line,
Yep.
right? I see you lining
Every
up
Sunday.
for Vive merch,
Yep.
and you're registering for Brotherhood events and
Yep.
things like that. All of those are transactions, right? And what we found is that those transactions are all happening on different platforms, from
Yeah.
Square to Stripe to Shopify. And the reason why it's a missed opportunity that they're all on different platforms, it doesn't provide a unified profile for the member or the congregant, so that the church or the community can pursue a deeper relationship. But if we can unify all those transactions, every transaction is not a missed opportunity anymore. Every
Right.
transaction becomes an opportunity for deeper connection.
Nice.
And that's something that we've actually been on this, I would say, past couple of weeks, is we've been talking about, at the end of the day, all the innovative things that we've been working on, that's really what it's about, right? It's about how do we use technology to build deeper connection.
Yeah.
If Starbucks can do it, how much more of a mandate does
Yeah.
the Church of Jesus Christ?
Yeah, I mean,
Have
deeper
to do.
connection is actually our word for the year at Vive Church.
Come on.
A deeper connection. I know it's two words, but it's an adjective. Okay, so you're allowed to use that, and it's a deeper connection because that's actually ultimately how discipleship happens.
Right.
You've got the product of discipleship, but you've also got the process of discipleship. And the product of discipleship is if I was to say what's the product of discipleship, it's a passionate pursuer of Jesus Christ who's militant in their kingdom effect. The process, though, is through deeper connection. As I get deeper connection into the things of God, I actually become a disciple of God. And so we've been looking at deeper connection from so many levels.
Love that.
And, it's going to be a real key focus to the
Come
way
on.
we do ministry, the way we do business, the way we do relationships. Because I think a lot of churches, even a lot of companies, they have this weird focus of community. Like you'll talk to people and they'll be like, oh, we're just all about building community.
Buzzword.
Well, that's a false narrative.
Totally.
You can't build community.
Right.
Because community is a byproduct. Community is a byproduct of a deeper connection to something. So why you can have, because you've got a limited capacity for community. You think about, come New Year's, how many people you text. That's your capacity for community. Are you going to text family members and maybe a few friends? Are you going to text your coworkers? Well, they're a community, but you have a limited capacity of community. Your community is actually built around literally what you're connected to.
I love
So what we see in
that.
the church community is a byproduct of what we're connected to, which is the mission of Jesus Christ. If you go to focus, if your aim is to build a community, what you'll actually build at a certain capacity is cliques. Because we have a limited capacity for community, you'll create cliques, which actually become toxic to the wider community. And so then instead of having one toxic person in your community, you have a toxic group of people. Because you ever taken the strawberry out of the punnet that's furry?
Yeah.
You have to take all four around it because they all get furry. But it was one strawberry that was toxic, but it infected the ones around it.
Yep.
It's like the bad apple. That's the same with cliques. But if we focus everyone to a connection and make deeper connections, then actually the byproduct of that is a healthy community.
Such a beautiful framework. I've been on this thing right now around moments.
Yep.
Right. And how to create core memories. It was actually one of the pieces of direction I gave Kim in planning this night is how can we create a core memory with everybody?
Yeah.
And I was actually talking to one of the guests afterwards, and he's like, man, Vance, we try to be generous in our ministry and things like that. You've seen it. We were generous with what we have, but we were just challenged in our generosity because they left with a gift from us because they were one of the awards.
Yep.
They left with a piece of artwork. They left with leftovers. They left with swag of the Overflow Foundation. And he said he was walking out of the venue feeling kind of bad because it looked like they were robbing the place. and I was like, you know what? We just made a core memory with him.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you're present and intentional with moments to create core memories, it actually produces movements.
Yes.
Right. And I love that framework of everybody's throwing around this buzzword. Hey, it's all about community. It's all about community. No. Like, that's exactly right.
Yep.
No. How are you facilitating deeper connection? And as just a natural byproduct of that,
Yes.
then you have community. I felt like at the end of that night, I didn't call it this,
Yep.
but I felt like if I asked people if that felt like community, if they felt like they were part of an Overflow community now, they probably say yes.
100%.
And they can't wait till next year.
Right.
Well, what you gave him was an opportunity or an example of what it looks like to live higher. So you think about the church.
So
And this
true.
is a value we have at Vive Church is we live higher because we have deeper connection. And that is almost an oxymoron, to live higher but deeper. Well, we live at a higher level because we're not just living for ourselves.
Exactly.
Like I look around my neighbors, they live every week for themselves. But I'm spending my money on the kingdom. I'm
Yes.
investing in the church. I'm advancing people that I don't even know yet as we send missions teams and all this. So I'm living higher.
So good.
But I'm doing it through a deeper connection to a mission.
Beautiful.
And that is the key. That's the example that you gave him.
I love that.
That's really beautiful. And like, I just wanted to make sure that we had this time to talk about it because your company is doing so much and it's such a strong mission and you've advanced so much. And I think for, the people out there that are kind of building companies as well, to like kind of hear success stories a little bit about what you're doing, what you have planned. It's really exciting.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
We love talking about it. I appreciate being able to talk about it on the Hype Pod. It's our family.
Yes.
And so it's exciting. The future is bright.
It really is. And like looking back a year, the next thing I wanted to chat about was ChatGPT. But this morning, I don't know if you guys saw, Google dropped Gemini.
Okay.
Which is
Arms
Gemini
race.
drop.
Yeah, they just dropped their competitor basically to this. And so like things are advancing so much in
Yeah.
the AI space. I was just curious if, Overflow is kind of entering that space at all or, kind of what
We
you
hope
think.
to. Yeah, we hope to for sure. The stuff we're doing at Vest, we're doing actually a ton of AI stuff.
Nice.
We hope to incorporate it into Overflow as well, as much as we can consolidate unique data sets within the platform. Like I said, if we can own every single transaction within a church community, then what we can do is we can serve up insights from that data, unifying it, right? But then from there, it's not just insights, it's recommendation.
Right.
Because, a lean church staff, if you give them data and insights, but not like an easy button to turn those insights into action, then it's limited, right? But I think that's what AI allows us to do is things like auto AI and things like that. You can then now set plans and recurring communications and personalized communications, and a staff of 2 can feel like 200
Right.
Exactly.
with AI eventually.
Yeah.
So
No,
we
definitely.
hope to incorporate that for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as it's related to finances.
Yeah,
At
definitely. I
Overflow.
think at this point you're starting to slowly become a data company, for what I'm understanding. Like you're collecting this, and once you become a data company, you gotta.
Isn't that the differentiator with AI though? Because I feel like the LLMs are going to be commoditized.
Sure.
Isn't
Yeah,
the data the differentiator?
It is,
I think the data is the differentiator. I also think that it's optimized in allowing you to get profile enhancement and profile optimization of your target audience, right? So
Yes.
it's what usually took a long time, with the speed and I guess how exponential AI can actually use your workforce and create your workforce. You get so much enrichment around the profile of each person that you can actually better serve them.
Yes.
You're not just serving useless products, you're actually serving them to their needs. So I think that is, but what you've got is data points now. So many data points on the individual that actually is very critical to being a perfectly optimized product, to the subset.
Yeah.
But Gemini launched.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, no-
What's the differentiator? What's the different, because we got Grok's got personality.
Right.
Grok has humor.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is woke.
Is woke. Yeah, very woke. What's Gemini? Is there a little, hey, this is why you should do Gemini?
So it just dropped this morning. Unfortunately, I was like at work. I tried to like listen to some stuff about it, and so I watched the promo videos. I think its big claim to fame is going to be it's like multimodal, so it can kind of take in video, audio, text, speech, image all at once and do it very efficiently. And so it has like 3 different levels. One for like I think they're doing Nano, Pro, and then Ultra. So Ultra is for like the high end, like scientific.
I feel like they've been very patient with this.
They have.
I feel like they've had Gemini the whole time.
Oh, for sure.
But they're like, let's.
Do you guys remember AlphaGo?
Yes. And
if you haven't, you got to watch the documentary on YouTube. Fantastic documentary.
Oh, okay. I want to watch that.
Fantastic documentary. But
here's what I feel like Google potentially have done very smart. They've allowed OpenAI to get the market curve of learning out there and then build upon it. That's actually one of the best industry applications is let somebody else do the hard work of new learning and then come over the top with an already behavioral set that you can build upon.
Yes.
Interesting. I heard a different take on it, and I'd love your opinion, but I heard that they didn't want to they've had it in their back pocket, but they knew it would destroy their search business, which is based on ads.
It will destroy their search business.
But that's why they didn't do it, and then ChatGPT
But it will make a
forced
new
it.
search business.
Right. And I think they were still trying to figure out how to monetize. How do you monetize this, right? And so I was curious what you think. Like, do you think, their hand was forced, or it really was they were patiently waiting?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I do know that DeepMind at Google is actually the OG, right? Yeah. So actually, people at OpenAI and things like that, they were actually doing this at DeepMind at Google first, right? And so a lot of the times I think that Google is actually first to market in terms of R&D on a lot of these things. The gap, I think, for Google historically has been the difference between being able to take it from R&D to market, right? And so that's why they were Amazon Prime before Amazon Prime. In the Silicon Valley, remember? You could get like a toothpaste at Google Express, and it was like even no delivery fee. I was like, Google's just losing money on this right now. And there's all the Google cars everywhere and stuff like they were first to self-driving cars before Tesla, all that type of stuff. And then, you have things like in R&D, it was a 20% project, Gmail, and it ended up getting to market. And it's like the #1 email client now. Chrome was like an R&D project, ended up being the #1 browser. So they do know how to bring things to market. It's just I think they do so many things that they haven't figured out. It's kind of like Apple. If Apple says they're going to do something, they're going to do it, and it's going to release, and it's going to be incredible, right? Google is more of just like they're running and gunning. I feel like a little bit.
I think they made a few mistakes along the way, like Google Glass and stuff like that.
Maybe gun shy a little bit.
That made them like, that didn't really work.
But they were just ahead of their time now, right? Like Google Glass now is just
it should have been Google Pin.
It should have been Google Pin. It could have been some other wearable, but like Meta glasses, they're now back in. So like you said, Apple does something really well where I think they build the product and the story, and then the tech kind of comes along with it. Google just says, we're just going to build amazing tech, and we hope something sticks. But they have so much.
It's a culture, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that Google prides themselves. I mean, Sergey and Larry. I mean, nerds. Right? I mean, it's just run by nerds. And then you got Steve Jobs as a storyteller.
But their approach is reverse. See, most people will budget out and then spend. They'll spend and then figure out how much did that cost. And did we make money or did we lose it? And so it's a reverse engineered.
And then the reverse is true, because actually, like, the larger topic for this pod, I kind of wanted to chat about building teams and stuff. And then we kind of hear, Elon took over Twitter and he, like, cut, 80% of the team. But, like, look how fast they're moving. Like, they've built and
unbelievable
changed so much. Like, Twitter has not moved this fast in years.
No way.
It basically was, like, what it was for years, and now it's just developing into this new thing, right? And so I kind of wanted to chat with you guys, because you guys have, obviously built large entities, and you guys have started from when it was just individuals. At what point did you guys think, how do I figure out when I need to scale my team, or is it better to have like a small team like that so I can operate quickly?
Oh man, if you would have asked me 2.5 years ago, I'd probably have a different answer. I was all about like, grow at all cost, build the team as big as possible so that you can grab as much market share and things like that. I'm actually appreciating a lot more, especially because I'm a software company, lean and mean. I love it. Like, I love trying to understand operational leverage. I love just the idea that, okay, I don't necessarily need a massive army for what we're doing, but I want like SEAL Team 6. right? I do want kind of the Avenger level, and so what I found is that more bodies is not necessarily the right answer. It's really understanding skill. It's really understanding like per person revenue, per person leverage that you have in terms of productivity. And we've been a lot more disciplined about that. We've had ebbs and flows in the company, right? We've hired, we fired, you know, all that type of stuff. And I'm realizing now, okay, hire a bit slower, fire fast, hire a bit slower. So that's kind of the mentality we have currently.
Yeah, we're definitely moved into a zone where we're talent focused.
Yeah.
You know, top tier talent. How do we get the best talent? How do we get the best of the best on the team? You know, because you can have a lot of staff that feels like a lot of interns. That sometimes as a CEO, you stop and you think, is my job here to optimize your life? Is my job here, is the whole reason you're working here so that I can enhance your life? Or are you here building my thing?
Yeah.
And after a while, when you've got low level, probably talent or a lot of people, you feel like you exist just to help them live a work life.
Yeah, you're just like managing.
Yeah, and how do I make your work life better? And how do I, you know, energize you with the vision? Rather than, hey, let me give you a whole problem and you just bring it back fixed.
Great.
Or how do I get you just to own this at a level where I don't have to think about it? And I think that comes down to top tier. I mean, it's pretty hard to dispute that Elon is an absolute genius. That
Love
this
this
guy
guy.
is a master of understanding companies, organizations, scalability. He's got creativity on another dimension, but he executes. I think it's what you said. He fires fast. He doesn't have time to play woke games.
Nope.
And he doesn't even really care about the backlash. He actually said this quote that was epic. I think it was in the conversation around Bob Iger and that kind of stuff. He's like, you know, I don't possess that desire to have friends or something around that. Like that's such a hindrance to life when you need people to like you.
Yes.
And I thought about it. I'm like, it's so true. You really cagey if you really get around people liking you. Now, we don't live in the billionaire club where we can care less with people like us enough.
Yeah.
We're trying to, you know, deeper connections. We're trying to build people. But I think it could be a stalemate too, that if you act too slow because you're more worried about, you know, how people think of you rather than executing on the vision.
And, you know, to be honest, I feel like, and I don't know Elon directly, so I don't know exactly his motivation, but by his actions, I feel like he's more compassionate than the virtue signaling people that I see in the media. Here's the thing. I'm so grateful that he actually purchased, and I don't know if it's going to be a good monetary thing for him in the short term, but I'm so grateful he purchased Twitter, now X. 2 years ago, you couldn't say anything.
Nope.
Yeah.
You couldn't say anything on social media in general, definitely not Twitter.
Yeah.
You can say anything. Now
There is no doubt it's the best social media platform out there. There's no second.
Right.
like, check this out. The All In podcast, right? Probably one of the top 10 business podcasts in the world now.
Yeah.
Even them, they've switched from like, I would say pretty like center left. I think they're all like going right now. And I'm not like even trying to get political. All I'm saying is they had Tucker Carlson on the podcast the other day.
I heard
Great
about that.
episode.
I want to watch that.
2 years ago, they would have never had Tucker.
Yeah.
What are we talking about?
Right.
But because X has created a place truly where people could be on the left truly and on the right truly and say stuff in a public square that actually has scale, it's changed the dynamic. I feel like people that have had certain views have been more courageous.
Yeah, for sure.
Nowadays. And I think people are finding each other now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like provided a better balance, I feel like, where it's felt more divisive in the past because literally you couldn't say stuff. Like you couldn't say words.
Right.
And or else it's like
I feel like all the people that reacted, remember you had all that big backlash, like I'm canceling Twitter and I'm off it. All those people have definitely started to come back.
Oh, they're back.
Because Threads is a waste of time.
Yeah.
And it's just like a little echo chamber where everyone's encouraging each other. It's so weak. It's like, I ate a banana today. You know, and it's so weird that people go, actually, I don't like that world.
Yeah.
It feels really stale and it feels really clinical.
Right.
Whereas you come to X, you feel like you're in the real world.
Right.
You feel like you got human interaction.
Right.
Even if you don't like it so much, it's kind of like it's kind of abrasive, but that is at the core of what we do as humans.
It really is. And it's the core of like innovation, right? If you don't
Yes.
allow people to kind of say their view one way or the other and
Yes.
like listen to it and take that in, you just never change. Like you'll have this like group think, right? Everybody's too afraid to say anything. And that's kind of what I feel like social media was going to. It was like you said, I can't say anything, so I'm just gonna say, I ate a banana today. And that's it.
Exactly.
And I can't say anything else. And so now you're not really thinking about something new, but like Tucker Carlson on that podcast, I've always heard him and like stuff about him, but like just hearing him actually talk about his points, like if you agree with them or not.
What was the main points?
He kind of went through like all of his
Oh,
lawsuit.
you got to
climate
listen to
change.
it. But I would say that one of the themes that he was bringing up is that a lot of the fringe ideas that have now become popularized
Yep.
is actually a product of really high privilege. And
That's a good
so
one,
it's
yeah.
this idea that, there's a certain group of people, this is his words, middle age white women basically in Wyoming that don't
Right.
like him, that have all these fringe views that have now become popularized because when you get to a certain status and a certain level of luxury, you start caring about luxury beliefs.
Oh, yeah.
And so he
100%.
has this whole thesis.
That's ESG.
Yeah, he has this whole thesis of that, of climate change, of all these different type of things, based on kind of this hypothesis,
Yeah.
right? And I think there's actually some validity to it because basically his whole thing was, people that are not in that position to even have those luxury beliefs, they're not talking about those things, right? It's not as important. Actually, a really prominent VC recently told me he was giving a lecture at Stanford, and everybody had the pronouns on their name tag. And so he gives a speech, and at the end of his speech, he actually tells each of them, just like literally in the class at Stanford, he's like, hey, by the way, if you want to go to the global marketplace and you all pull this type of stuff in the global marketplace, you will get eaten alive.
Yeah.
Because there's people in Asia, there's people in Africa that do not understand this. And so he wasn't taking a political view. He was just saying, hey, look, maybe we've been in a bubble.
Right.
Maybe there's some fringe ideas that we've popularized that's actually bubble ideas.
Yeah,
not
I think that
global
goes. I think
ideas.
that whole idea of it's not just rich individuals. I think it's wealthy Western mindset.
Yes.
That has not had to think a day in their life about where they're going to get their food. So
That's what he said.
Wait, have you
That's
listened to the
literally
podcast?
what he said.
Yeah, that was exactly what he said.
That's literally what he said.
Right. So that's where we come up with gender ideologies. We're actually inventing issues now so that we have something to fight over rather than fighting for life and fighting to sustain life and to
basically it.
be alive.
Yeah.
Well, that is a byproduct of wealth, right?
Yeah.
Is where your views get skewed on what actually matters in life. And that's for me climate change. That's like the thing I've always, and I've gone on this podcast before, got some ridicule from people about climate change. When at the end of the day, it's not. For me, it's just another way to juice money out of people and make it a political point, and it gets everybody in fear, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because people say, oh, point to the science, right? And I think a lot of these things, it's kind of like, hey, let's just be intellectually honest, right?
Yeah.
Because, okay, cool, you can say in this graph that climate is changing, right? But it's really what's not intellectually honest is saying something like, oh, and the reason why is because we drive Fords, right? Like the reason why is because like we created, but like temperatures have drastically changed over time. And so I think
Okay, I even carry a little bit of a differential point on that. I think climate is constantly changing. We just don't know if it's cyclical and if it's changing for
Exactly.
the better or for the worse.
Exactly.
Okay, so the Earth is actually built for carbon. That's what trees
Yeah.
replace carbon for oxygen, right? The world is built masterfully by design by our creator to absorb and to repress. So over years, you see a cyclical change where you'll see patterns that are maybe hotter years, colder years, all these kinds of things. We just think in such a little minute pattern that we've been recording the temperatures of like, oh no, we're in a desperate time, and we use that. But you don't know over thousands of years. We haven't been recording data that long. We've got carbon dating, we've got different things that we try and measure off, but we haven't been collecting the data long enough to see so we're reacting. And I actually believe that in time we'll look back and go, oh man, that was an overreaction. That was weird.
Well,
We spent
then-
thousands of dollars on something that did nothing.
You realize that what perpetuates the overreaction is actually just industry.
Yeah.
Because I've been in conferences, literally, prominent like SaaS conferences where people are promoting these things, they're investing in these things, they're propagating narratives, and then you look behind the veil, and it's because they have a SaaS product to
Right. Right.
calculate the carbon
benefits
footprint.
them.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's just like, oh, you're grifting off this.
Right.
And so for me, I agree.
This
like,
is no longer a cause.
Right.
Right.
This
so when it
is,
comes
you
down
know-
to electric vehicles and all these things, we there's even proof that it's not even net new benefit to the environment. So for me, it's like, well, I think we've got the wrong focus. I think we should be look at taking plastics out of the ocean. I think we should look at where we dispose of trash. Like
Yes, please.
how are we caretaking for the environment rather than putting our focus on global emissions, because we still need to heat people's places. We still need to actually fund factories. We still need to progress as society. And sometimes these things are actually doing people out of jobs, work. I'm humans first. And a part of being human first means let's preserve our oceans so we can enjoy them.
And going back to your team question, I think the mark of a good team and being able to mobilize a really talented team is, at the end of the day, vision. And so I kind of blame us too,
Yeah.
in the sense that, okay, the people around pushing climate change, they've been better visionaries around this fear-induced
Oh, so
vision
good.
than people giving an alternative vision. And so this is really a call to arms. Like, if you don't agree with that,
Yeah.
okay, we need to create a better vision.
Yeah.
We got to articulate a better vision.
Yeah. No, and I think that kind of ties back into also just being able to talk about this stuff, right? Like being able to have this point of view and then do the research. But if you can't even talk about it, you can't even get to the point where you do research and
Right.
provide stats and,
Which
respond.
X is allowing us to have the
Which X is
conversation.
allowing us to have. And I think that's also a question I have for you guys when you guys are building this team. How do you guys, input that feedback culture for your team and allow that to happen, especially early on when you're building maybe the first 10 people of your team? How do you guys allow that to happen?
Oh, so I'll tell you what not to do.
Okay. Yeah.
I did one, early on, we did an anonymous survey feedback.
Yeah, okay, wow.
This is so
Anonymous.
funny.
So stupid. I'm never doing that again. Because
Yeah.
people have courage.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like unbridled
Yeah.
courage. Unhealthy, I would say.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Unhealthy courage when things are anonymous. And they're out for blood.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe I'm being maybe I'm still bitter, but maybe
No,
they're
but
not out for
it's
blood.
that
but
and they make up cohesions. Like,
Totally.
hey, everyone's saying, or everyone wants a Coke Zero machine. Like, no, you want that.
Right.
Exactly. And so we don't do that anymore, because what we found was that when you don't have to put your name behind it,
Yeah.
Yep.
you actually have unbridled feedback that becomes more hurtful than helpful.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one thing to not do. Another thing that we realized is how to create a no gossip culture. And so in early stage teams, like Pastor Adam was saying, feedback would be somebody saying, well, Vance, everybody is saying, or people are saying, or they said that, and then they'll give a point of feedback to me. And so what I told my team is like, because I heard it so many times, I was like, okay, if you ever said they said or people said and you don't give me their name, I'm assuming it's you. Right? But if you're legitly in a conversation where somebody is talking about another person behind their back in the company and they're not present to be able to advocate for themselves or to be able to respond, it is your duty now to tell them, hey, we actually have a no gossip policy at Overflow. I'd actually recommend you taking that frustration directly to the person. And if you don't loop back to me in the next 24 hours, I'm going to flag it up to them myself. And it's been the healthiest. I know that sounds a little bit like weird and harsh maybe.
No, it's cool.
But like, it's created such a healthy culture because now people are just actually talking directly to each
Yeah.
other instead of behind each other's back.
Yeah.
It's so unhealthy.
Yeah, it's the culture element that you just talked about. I think the earlier your team that you're building, you want to establish what culture do we have here. And so we want a direct culture, but something that we framed from the very beginning, even when you were on staff, was we've got a culture of contributing, not
Yes,
criticizing.
Exactly.
Like I can pay anybody to. I can literally. I don't even have to
Totally.
pay people to criticize.
Yeah.
I can just get a team of people in here, and the first thing we'll do is criticize. Because if I was to ask you, hey, could you review? The moment I say the word review, you're already going to how I could better it. So you're going to highlight all the criticism. And that's why I don't love things like Yelp and all, because it's so much critics. Everyone's critical, and but it takes no brain power to be a critic. It takes brain power to be a contributor. How can I make this better?
Yeah.
And so it's just framing the culture. When we come together and we discuss stuff, we're going to come from a contributing mindset.
Yeah, no, actually, on that topic, do you guys value one over the other? Like, especially early on when you have to build a product, you really want the most talented team. But
Yes.
if it's not the right culture fit, does that make a decision for you to not bring
for
somebody
sure.
in? It's culture over talent,
100%.
for sure.
Culture over talent for sure.
Okay.
Every day of the
Yeah,
week.
I would definitely put culture at the top, and then talent a close second.
Close second, okay.
I definitely put, because I've had a lot of culture and no talent,
That's true.
and you're like, oh, I'm glad you love this, and I'm glad you're echoing everything.
Right.
But man, can we do something?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Could you contribute?
Yeah.
So I think, but the most talented person that is toxic for your culture is
It's like the
most
bad apple you're talking about, yeah.
Exactly.
It can destroy a whole company, really, from
It can
inside.
destroy a company. It can split a church. It can do so much. Yeah.
You know what I think is overrated when people say, well, the healthiest cultures, allow for disagreement. The healthiest cultures allow
No,
for
yeah.
feedback. I think that's overrated.
Interesting.
I think that that's really just for people that want to have no holds bar
Yeah.
on their disagreement. Having that culture actually makes people lazy to not be persuasive, right? To not actually think through something to try to be winsome in that. And they just want to have culture so they could just like complain,
Yeah.
right? Here's the thing. It doesn't have to be groupthink though, even if you don't highlight, oh, it's okay to disagree here. It doesn't have to be groupthink because you can still bring in net new information. You can still bring in net new insights that is complementary, not rooted in conflict.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Do you think it's more the approach then? Because I actually am like maybe a person that likes the idea of being challenged and being able to challenge
Exactly.
ideas. So do you think it's just more about how you approach that situation?
For sure.
Because the culture should be
100%.
challenged, right? Like you
Yes.
should be able to challenge an idea.
And challenge is different from disagreement.
Got it. Yes. Okay. So not just complaining about it, but come with, like you're saying, net new.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And so then on
I mean,
top,
you're talking to the challenger.
right? That's true. So I just wanted to make sure to
I find
clarify.
I'm the one challenging everybody's ideas. You know what I mean? But,
How do you work with? Because I'm assuming there's challenges around staff as
yeah,
well.
I just out challenge them. No, no, I definitely, naturally bend towards let's challenge this idea. Let's poke holes at it. Let's make sure it's kind of watertight. And that's so I know that I already think that way. And so I'm not going to create a room full of lemmings that just say yes and go with the flow and just praise every idea that comes out. Like I'm going to provoke, and I think that if there's a healthy environment where you feel challenged to bring something intellectual,
Yes.
not just something contradictory.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like bring something that's still complementary, but it's intelligent. Don't just pick the opposite point because you feel like that's your contribution.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then when you guys are, as part of like Best Fun, when you guys are looking for new teams and ideas, do you guys pick the idea or do you guys pick the team when you guys are trying to invest in another company?
It's kind of both and.
Yeah, it's both.
It's both.
We, as Vance alluded to before, we're very heavily stacked now towards AI companies. It's becoming a major part of our portfolio. But, we're looking for, I always say this, okay? Now, this sounds obnoxious, but I'm pretty smart. So if I don't understand an idea,
Sure.
then I'm not that stupid to go, this is a bad idea.
Right.
Like I want to be able to pretty much pick it up in the moment and go, hey, I think I can see a pathway for that. So if I can't really understand it and get excited about it from the pitch, then I'm like, pass. I don't want to have to be convinced more. At the same time, I'm looking for a personality that is extremely bullish, that is extremely convicted.
Good.
Because we know this, building a company is the most difficult thing. It's
hard, man.
so tough.
It's hard.
And if I can talk you out of your idea, or
Yeah.
I can put so much doubt in it in our pitch moment that you're kind of like second guessing, well, guess what? No, you have to convince me.
Right.
And I will challenge people's ideas.
Yeah.
And I think that is the element that we're always looking for is both personality and the idea, the product. can we get a good mesh towards that? Because one can't work without the other.
For sure.
The reason I asked is because it seems like, at least my investment thesis, but this
Okay.
is like the crypto space. It was more of, you saw a lot of these ideas pop up. There was a ton of ideas. They would
Yeah.
come up. They're all kind of similar, a little bit different. But the thing that always seemed to, the coins or the tokens that took off were a good, solid team behind it, right?
Sure.
And so it always felt like the team
Yeah.
kind of had to lead the idea. The idea couldn't lead the team.
Did you do a lot of crypto investing?
Yeah, I did. So
So how are you doing? How's the portfolio?
because I started back in like 2017.
Yeah, good.
Now it's, still, I've been through the ebbs and flows.
Okay.
I haven't sold on time, but
Yeah.
I'm learning. But so 2017, it's been a good ride. And now I'm in the space building, so I get to kind of see, how
Right.
it's done. And I think we're getting close to another cycle. Crypto's pumping a little bit, guys. I mean,
Bitcoin's
not financial
Bitcoin's
advice.
right up there in the
Not financial
40
advice, yeah.
something thousand. Yeah.
It's going up.
Yeah.
I think in the crypto space, there were obviously bad players, right?
Yeah.
And I think what it was is a beautiful lesson that you've gone on. You've got like a university education in crypto now, just from being in the space. And I think within that, you have to differentiate.
Yeah.
Cool. We might have had some really good teams on bad products because, I mean, you think of how well NFTs went, and they're rubbish. It was like a lot of it was a scam, and it was just hype. There was a lot of unknown. There was a contribution of COVID, and people bored and felt they were rich, and all this kind of stuff. And this is my net new way. I'm going to be an art dealer of NFTs or whatever
Right.
it was. But it was in that season where I had to several times say, Vance, please explain it to me again. Just explain NFTs, because I feel like I'm smart, but this one's really annoying me. And we went rounds on it, and just was never sitting in me to go, I'm not investing in that. I'm not investing in that. And
Yeah.
it turns out it was really bogus. So I think what you do, though, is you go to take away, what did that season of that crypto surge do? Well, now we're settling into some infrastructure, and you're in a Rails company, so you're building some really great Rails, which is like the best place to be.
Yeah.
If there is another, global economy or global coins that we move towards, that's going to create an infrastructure in the future.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think the one part about that's kind of scary is, like, talking about this team stuff, I was doing some research, and then like all the stuff that happened with OpenAI and Sam getting fired, and then maybe the whole team going with him. It was like, was that in your mind an idea of him being such a good leader that his team was kind of following him, or they saw the potential of OpenAI crashing? He was like, monetary, we need to go with him. Like, wherever he goes, we go. And like, they're about to raise like what?
I feel like he had a lot of affection from a lot of people.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just clear, right? From the backlash on Twitter X, where a lot of the former YC companies or current YC companies were just really backing him and saying, hey, Sam went to bat for me. I'm like Sam all the way. To the employees, literally hundreds of them filing a protest saying that we'll walk if you don't bring Sam back.
700 of the 770.
It's like wild,
Crazy.
right? So like, I don't know if you can deny, like, I don't know if he's a good leader or not, but people have a lot of affection for him.
Yeah.
So people were really rocking with them
Yeah.
and behind him, and ultimately so much pressure that they had to bring him back.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's a real narrative if the employees were behind Sam, or they were just nervous about their stock.
Right. And I've heard both takes. I've heard.
See,
yeah.
if I'm in that position, is it because I really love that CEO, or crap? If the CEO goes, my stock's going to tank. And at that point, I always say this: everyone loves a missional statement with their company, but take the salary away. Are you going to be there for the mission? No, you're not. Take the mission away, you're still going to be there for the salary, most probably. So I always put salary first in these scenarios. I also don't know what is going on. I feel like I've missed out on a key piece of the.
Do you want to hear some of the rumors that's going on? So
I would, because
Yeah.
I'm on boards.
Yeah.
I've been a founder.
Yeah.
And I've been in the board seat, and I'm still in board seats. And I have to think through, as a board member in our board conversations with different technology companies that I'm on, what would have to happen
To fire the CEO, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
to fire the CEO?
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Generally, it's only for complete misconduct.
Yeah. Yeah.
but it doesn't seem like that is evident. So I'd love to hear what are the theories.
Yeah, and for it to be misconduct, that would have come out by now. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's the one.
For sure. If there's
that's
a
the
legal
one-
thing.
If you're on the
Right, yeah.
board, you go, hey, it was misconduct.
Yeah.
Right.
But has the board said anything?
No. So I feel like it's not that.
So he found AGI.
That is the rumor. So the rumor is he found artificial general intelligence. It's called Q-Star internally. It got leaked.
Oh,
There was
I've heard about this.
So there was a whistleblower that leaked this, and so it was out of fear of what that could, potentially become, that some of the board members were like, I'm not sure where Sam is going with this, and they
Because Sam is just super bullish.
yeah, super bullish, and he had his hands in a lot of different areas, and so they
And
were
the Twitch, or former Twitch CEO, I guess, Emmett Shear, is a little bit more conservative. Doesn't want AGI to take over the world. But Sam, I think, is cool with it.
But Q-Star is the AGI element.
Yeah, so they have it. So it's
So explain AGI for the audience.
Yeah, so it's this idea of like this advancement in AI to the point where it can make logical decisions beyond just replicating data that it has and actually creating net new. So it's kind of like
Skynet.
Yeah, like
It's Terminator.
It really is.
No,
It
but
really
I
is.
heard it could do mathematical equations.
Yes.
It went from like a language model to now mathematics,
Yep.
which actually then opens up code breaking and
Yes,
all that
breaking
kind of stuff.
encryption and crypto becomes
So that-
potentially obsolete.
But that was
Yeah.
the original Google fear. The
Yep.
Google fear was that if this gets into, like, it's cool if it's like language
Right,
and,
right.
and emotions and stuff like that, but the moment it gets into math, we're done.
Yeah.
Because there's no encryption that it cannot undo.
Right, math
so,
is the-
so blockchain
yeah.
and all this kind of stuff
Exactly.
that you're building on.
That's why you were asking what we were talking about the investment, and I brought this up because that was a fear. So I was like, it's
Yeah.
better to be a little bit safer with this stuff because you just don't get in the wrong hands, and then all of a sudden
Sell, pull out. Now.
yeah, I gotta go, guys. I gotta,
Yeah, I mean, that seems for me reasonable
yeah,
if enough for the board to react.
For sure.
If the board are like, whoa, we're crossing territory that maybe we always said we wouldn't,
Yeah.
and then we could pull the trigger. For a board to act that unanimously, like, I
Yeah.
mean, a board usually 7 people. I don't know how many people are on the board, but like for 7 people to all act together
Yeah.
and unanimously and fire the CEO who is a superstar.
Yeah.
Superstar.
It's not like he's unknown.
Yeah.
He's on magazines.
Right,
He's like
right.
the Silicon Valley pinup boy right
Yeah.
now. To make that move and threaten the stock position and
Yeah.
everything, you have to be thinking more than financial gain on building this company. You have to think about the future of humanity almost. And that's a weird position to be
Yeah,
in
yeah.
if that's what they're doing.
yeah. It's tough because I think what happened was like Microsoft has a huge investment here, right? And so initially they were like, oh, well, we can't lose this investment, so they're going to bring them on. But you don't know what's going to happen once you bring OpenAI into like a fully regulated, massive company. Like
Right.
that might have just really taken that whole thing down. So I think the end game was never to join Microsoft. I think Microsoft obviously was willing, but I don't think there was
For Sam?
For Sam, yeah. I think that was his.
They literally hired him at one point.
Yeah.
That's what I heard.
Over the weekend.
Over the weekend, he got hired by Microsoft. The whole team was going to come, and then they brought him
And then he
back.
resigned and went to OpenAI. back to
I think
OpenAI.
it just never materialized like that deal.
He didn't accept the offer.
But it was funny because the ex-Twitch CEO became CEO of
Oh, yeah,
OpenAI
right.
and then got fired. he tweeted that, and
I was
this
going
is
to make a great film.
this is
It
the
really
weird thing.
is.
Like, what do
It
we
really
call
is.
it? He X'd or like tweeted is just like I
Yeah,
feel like
you
the
post- no, they call
the
posted.
verb still. Is it-
Posted.
Oh, he posted.
Yeah,
Okay.
posted, yeah.
So Emmett he posted world record for shortest tenure as CEO of a
Wow.
company.
Wow.
It was like an afternoon.
Imagine if you got a signing bonus.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wait, wow. That'd be a nice way.
Got some stock
The
options.
severance, yeah.
That would be nice.
That would be
Hey,
really
at the end
nice.
of the day, I do think a lesson that I kind of took away from it, and I don't know the details of this, so probably maybe there was validity in it, but generally, from a principle standpoint, I've always felt that companies, churches, organizations should not be run by boards. Right? They should be run by founders. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's why, whether or not it was a right decision, that's why when a decision that a board makes that is so drastic like this, that threatens the operational viability of a company, there's going to be backlash.
Can you give us
right?
some insight into how that happens? Like how a board gets too much power in terms of
Well,
like in
we've
that
seen
setup?
churches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen churches they'll call it elder run or board run, and it's ineffective.
Yep.
Is it just money? Like how does that?
No, it's not money at all. It's got to do with I think in those settings, right, you get some power brokers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Yes.
mean? So you think about a setting as I'm a founder of Vive Church. I built a board. You know, we invested everything. We gave up everything to build the thing. We built on the back of sacrifice. And so we build a board, and the early board members are with you in the mission. But, you know, over time, you replace board members as maybe you get more expertise, or, you know, they serve for a season and they need to come off the board, and the board can morph and change.
And is that on you, the founder, to decide when that is, or is it the board?
The original board,
The original board,
is selected, but then the board votes
Okay,
on
yeah.
new members, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, it's a very democratic process, but you've actually built a company that you've now submitted yourself under, you know, to certain degrees. And it's a very humbling process to say now, hey, this thing that I built, you could determine whether I still do this. And obviously, you know, that comes from, in a church, you want godly men
Yeah,
and
yeah.
women who are literally governance, and they've got an anointing for that. But you also want someone who's, hey, we believe you're a radical, amazing leader. We don't want to handcuff that. We want it to
Exactly.
be, you know, exciting. But, you know, if you get, you know, we've seen churches, and same with companies, you get some power, you know, hungry people who
Yeah.
maybe get a little offended or whatever. Yeah, then it can get really squirrely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because I would say that a good board member understands their role.
Yeah.
Right. A good board member is not there to operate the business. A good board member understands they're not meant to make managerial decisions.
Nope.
The day to day, you know, even down to like staff salaries and stuff, like the board is not there to micromanage.
Yeah.
Right. The board is there to provide some governance. Right. If the CEO does go off the rails, for sure.
Yeah.
They have a fiduciary responsibility. That's probably their biggest responsibility: hire and fire CEOs.
Yes.
Right. But again, like to fire a CEO, that's pretty drastic.
Right.
It should be misconduct. It should be some sort of like pretty crazy thing.
Yeah.
Or they just like are not performing, right? Like literally maybe the company hasn't grown for 4 years, right? Something like
Yeah.
that. Then yeah, maybe because they have a fiduciary responsibility.
To the shareholders,
Outside of that, really they're there to provide some insights, some connections, some
Maybe some
open
wisdom.
doors. Yeah,
Yeah.
wisdom. They're there to be part of the conversation, but they understand their role is not to run the company.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get a board member that oversteps that, that's when it becomes ineffective, in my opinion. It becomes ineffective because you have somebody that's thinking about your business 2% of their time,
Yep.
trying to tell you what to do
Yeah.
when you're thinking about 110%
Yeah.
Yeah.
of your time. That's just like, that math doesn't make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So then it's like the importance of the founder at that time when you're forming the board to make sure you're forming it with the idea of this is my company and you should.
Yeah,
Right?
that you got to establish that for sure.
Yeah.
And I think you want people who love you,
Yes.
who want the best for the company.
Like on a personal level, this is more about
Yeah.
a deeper connection.
A deeper
to-
connection,
yeah.
because they actually believe in your best interest
Right.
as well. But at the same time, you really want to have someone who's run the play.
Yeah.
You want someone
Good.
who's been at that level before, and you know that they have run the play, and they're okay with you exceeding what they've done before. Do you know what I'm saying? And so it's a
Interesting.
very unique subset. And
Interesting.
I highly recommend if you're forming a board, you want to put everybody on a 12-month term,
Okay.
so that it's not an awkward, hey, you know, I've talked to the rest of the board,
Right,
you know, but it's an opportunity to re-up
Yeah.
through invitation that we put before the board, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of people we've had different people on the board at Vive before who have served brilliantly in one season, but we've needed to free up a space to someone who's, you know, who's grown a church to 10,000 people. And so we're like, hey, that's going to be useful for us on insights on what we're doing. And so they've run the play before.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then in terms of the size of the board, do you guys like a smaller, more nimble board, or is it like, you know, too many cooks in the kitchen kind of aspect
Oh,
with the
yeah.
board?
I mean, as lean as you can be, you know, for a VC-backed startup, the dynamic really is determined by the money that you raise.
Yeah,
Right. So that's where the board seat negotiation comes in. Every time you take money, they're going to want
Yep.
some level of board seat. And that's when you can negotiate, okay, 1 or 2 and things like that. You always want to try to negotiate the least amount of seats. They say give up the least amount of seats
Yeah.
as possible. And from a practical standpoint, to your point, I mean, you know, just imagine. I was actually, you guys got to listen to Visa on Acquired podcast. So good.
All right, check it out.
But at some point, they had 20 board members. And the CEO at the time would invite all of the spouses to sit in the board meetings as well, because without the spouses, apparently like they fought too much. And so they thought it was going to be like a situation where they'd be on better behavior if their spouse was sitting behind them. But basically the podcast explains how they got nothing done at these board meetings. It's just too big. Like there's just too many people in the room.
I think you want to keep it nimble because, look, from a practical example, coordinating board meetings and people are all over the place, time zones, conflicts, all that kind of stuff. And then you got a list of apologies from people who can't make the board meeting and that kind of stuff. So that's just practical. I think too few and it's too one-sided. So if you only have 3 board members, then that's very out of balance because you just need to win one other person and be persuasive.
Right.
I think 5 to 7 is probably the ideal board size in my experience. 5 works really brilliant, and 7 if you feel like these extra 2 board seats would be an asset because they've actually got so much maybe connections or they want to lead with generosity, with that kind of stuff. Because there is an expectation, I think, on a church board, there is an expectation that as a board member, you're actually not just directing, you're leading. You're leading with, investing into the vision, a large part of your income is going towards the church at another level. So it's not just a nice seat, it's an expectation.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
And so I think, the way you structure a board is very important. Yeah. But it's not everything because the involvement of the board is actually very small.
Oh yeah,
your lead strategy team is
that's the most important.
I think way more important.
Yes,
because they're the ones every day in the bunker with you, taking grenades.
Yeah, definitely.
And firing back.
Right. But I just want to touch on one more part of this, and which is the risk of taking in like VC money, for example, and they do get that board seat. Is there something that you guys look into when you guys were doing this and you took in money and maybe had to give up a seat, where there was some risk in, I needed this money, but that poison pill on the board could start to affect,
for sure,
decisions. And so you got to be really, I've heard a lot of like friends that have gone in this and say, I regret taking VC money because now I'm working.
I would say that the Overflow board, I've been lucky because, we have a pretty broad spectrum of perspective, I would say, but there's nobody on the board that is stepping over the line that I talked about, right? At the end of the day, there is opinion, but there is trust that, okay, but Vance is running the company and we trust him to run the company. And so I think that's what makes every board not toxic is if they don't step over. The stories that I've heard that become toxic is when they do step over that line, right? When they want to like make board meetings 4 hours and go through every line in the spreadsheet and they want to like make the decision for the CEO. And that's kind of like, okay, you've overstepped and now you're making this ineffective and slowing us down.
Yeah, they're called board bullies. And they definitely love to get a little power trip out of bullying the founder. Yeah. And, sometimes you do get this too. You do get people flexing on a board to other board members. It's almost like, I'm going to be the one to ask the most questions. Yeah. And they're redundant questions. And half the time you're like, oh, just stop. Yeah. But I think, so if I'm speaking to founders, definitely consider where you take your money.
For sure.
I think a discipline of founders is not just taking the first available money because there's money going to come from different places, and probably if it's going to come from somewhere, it's going to come from multiple places. Yeah. So you want to not just, because money's money, but what you get with that money is the access, maybe the chemistry of who's going to make up your board, what's their background, and do you get on? So I would be telling founders, talk to the potential board member before you receive the money. Have a conversation. Maybe go out for a meal. There's nothing wrong with that, to go, do we actually get on? Or are they got really misaligned values in their personal life that would definitely come into a board moment? And just maybe reserve the right to bow out.
Yeah. No, that's great.
Because you are doing relationship with them, by the way.
You are doing relationship.
For a while, yeah.
Yeah, and I think like maybe the co-founder relationship is probably the only thing that's probably like a bigger deal, right?
That's probably the biggest deal for sure.
Right, but other than that, it's in that and your board, right? Like, right, because they make the bigger decisions. But like between you and your co-founder, if you have a co-founder, I think that
maybe it depends what position the co-founder's in. Is it CTO or CMO? Those kinds of things. I think you really need to figure out like it is. But the board is, I would say it's integral. It's not critical.
Yep. No, that's fair. Thanks, guys. It was a great pod.
Yeah.
Come on.
Educational pod, I think.
Yeah. That was great. We covered a lot of ground.
I learned a lot.
Really did. And this is the second to last pod of the year.
No way.
Wow.
Man,
Oh,
It's
December.
been a great year. Wow. I think next time we'll reflect. We'll
Yeah.
reflect on
Oh,
the
that would
year.
be great.
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll have some moments.
Yeah.
March 6th, everybody.
We'll
March
sip eggnog.
6th. We
Yes.
are bringing the hype community together.
That's
Nice.
right.
March
Yes.
6th in the Silicon Valley
With
at the
FlowCon.
Vive Church building. Yeah, we're calling it FlowCon because we're going to
Nice.
partner with Overflow on this. But we're really calling all hype pod community
Yeah.
to be there. We'll get landing pages up soon.
How
and
many spots are we opening up again? Did we decide on that?
I think we're going to max it at 200.
Yeah.
Just because we are going to have breakouts. It's going to be really intentional. We're going to be doing experiences and
Nice.
things like that.
Yes.
And so, will there maybe be space for more if we want to expand it? Maybe, but the sweet number right now is probably going to max out at 200. So once we put up the landing page, we anticipate that this is probably going to go pretty fast.
Yeah.
Because the last hype event we had was, outside of conference,
Yeah.
the last hype event we had was like 250.
That's right.
And so I think it's going to fill up pretty fast. And we have actually people, prominent leaders, pastors, entrepreneurs from across the nation flying in.
They're already
Wow.
locked in. Yeah.
They're already locked
we
in.
Locked them
So
in.
we're probably locked in already like 30, 40 people.
Yeah.
Is this just for members or open
No,
to?
we're opening up this community.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice, perfect.
Any listener that this is your area of expertise?
Come on.
Innovation, entrepreneurial, pastoring, leading, CEO, CFO. We really feel like it's going to be beneficial.
It's going to
I'm
be good.
excited. The last hype event was absolutely
Oh, yeah, that was good.
crushed. So this is going to be fantastic.
Yes.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
Bless you.
Thanks, guys.
Let's go.
Yep.